Alright, welcome back to another video, guys, and today we will be looking at how to play against the Caro Kann defense. And I won't be showing any traditional kind of line today, because the Caro Kann, I mean, there's obviously so many lines. You have, again, like the French, you have the exact same moves. You have e takes d5, known as the exchange, e5 the advanced, knight to c3, you have knight to d2. Knight to d2 is a move that I recommend a lot. I mean, it kind of is the same like compared to knight to c3 if black eventually takes this kind of setup. I highly do recommend it, because I used to play it, and I sometimes play it nowadays as well. But the move I wanted to discuss, quite unorthodox and unconventional, and it's actually not even a bad move. It's just because it's been used by grandmasters like Carlsen during blitz games, and it's really good when your opponent prepares a certain line against you, and you can seriously just surprise them at any time with this, and it just throws their preparation out of the way. And it's a very simple line. There's probably not even like three variations, so we'll be covering all of them today. And it's just a very good position for white overall, because he has a lot of positional play. And although it isn't recommended to play in a very standard game, especially if your opponent's prepared enough at certain positions, I still do highly recommend it. So let's just get into the variation. Here, instead of playing your normal d4 or even c4, which is another variation by the way, we play the move knight to f3. Well, what is the idea of this move? You'll see in just a minute. You have pawn to d5. Obviously black can't move from his main idea. E takes d5, c takes d5, and here white plays the move knight to e5. Here black mainly has two options, out of which they get transformed eventually. So he either has knight to f6 or knight to c6. The reason he doesn't play bishop to f5, you'll see in just a bit, it's because of a simple move like knight to c3, and he doesn't want to create the complication. I'll show you exactly why. So the reason why this opening, at least I recommend it, because it restricts the movement of this c8 bishop, and that is one of, if you guys read theory, it's one of the main ideas of Caro Kann. The idea of Caro Kann is that this bishop on c8 effectively moves out to f5, followed by e6, and this bishop's gonna be the most important piece for black, at least in the opening, till he reaches middle game. Because if this bishop's blocked, black's kind of ideas fade away, and the fact that you play this type of setup with bishop d3, it really makes his king side vulnerable without the bishop, and that's something with just opening helps a lot to do. Well, the reason it doesn't go bishop f5, it's not even because of knight c3. I just like to point out that sometimes black can fall for this trap. You just push d4, and he usually plays e6 because he won't be aware of this opening, so he's accustomed to his normal setup of bishop f5 and e6, and here you can play the move bishop to b5. It's a very simple trap, but it's very easy to get caught in it, and this eventually forces you to break your castle, and it's not a very pleasant position for black. So let's look at the other option, first being knight to c6. Well, here you play the move d4. Again, here black has two options. He can either continue with knight to f6, or he can go knight to e5. He can take it, which I honestly don't think black should be doing, because after d takes e5, sorry, that isn't a move, you realize he's actually given up any sort of play he was going to have in the center, and he has to obviously move e6, because moving something like bishop f5 again after bishop to b5, you're just going back. There's no use. So a move like e6 is played, and after bishop to d3, you have knight to e7, castle, knight to c6, rook to e1, whoops, sorry there, e6, bishop d3, knight e7 castle, knight c6, rook to e1. After something like bishop to d7, knight d2. Whoops, again. And after knight to d2, you obviously either have a chance to go knight to f1 and knight to d3, or if he immediately threatens queen to c7, you can obviously go knight to f3. And you just realize how comfortable white's position is. I mean, if black ever castles kingside, it's going to be a bad idea because of all these guys eventually going to come to attack. And you can always move your rook to e3. And even if black castles queenside, which he shouldn't be doing because he has an open c file, this rook to e3 can either help you go to the queenside or the kingside. So you have a lot of plans in this position. Now let's look at what if he doesn't take. What if he goes knight to f6? Well, the move bishop to b5 is a very good move, and after bishop to d7, which is kind of forced, knight takes d7, queen takes d7, pawn to c3, e6, castle, your simple development. And after something like bishop to d3, your position is just really good. I mean, black does have a move like e5 coming up soon, but that's one of the reasons why I play bishop to d3 almost immediately and plan to go knight to d2 and knight to f3 and just fixate my knight over here whenever I can, as soon as I can. Another move you could try is pawn to f4, but I don't recommend it because of knight to e4 and like giving him an outpost. So black's only kind of threat, I'd say, not even threat, or his only plan here is to push pawn to e5. So you've got to somehow stop it, and one of the ways I like to do it is immediately go rook to e1, knight to d2, knight to f3, knight to d2, knight to f3, and knight to e5. And how that's done is, instead here after castle, bishop to d6, we go knight to d2, we have castle, and now instead of going rook to e1 is correct, and usually he wants to play a6 to move your bishop out so he can eventually push. And here I do recommend bishop to d3, but you can also take this, and after, I mean, I don't recommend it because you're not able to utilize this open diagonal, but after something like c6, you can fixate your knight on f3 and move it to e5. So that is always an alternative. Other than that, if you go bishop to d3, he can obviously push e5, but I really don't think after this he wants to really play with an isolated queen pawn in the endgame where you have all your major pieces still on the board. So let's look at the other variation, which is the only alternative. It goes with knight to f6 first, d4, and here he goes with the move g6. It's a completely different setup, and here you can give this check, but I think playing bishop to d3 and after just playing the same setup will not do you any harm, and you have the same plan of going knight to d2, knight to f3, exchange the knight here, and then fixate your knight again, kind of giving you Stonewall vibes. So, or the other thing you could do is give bishop to b5 check, after knight to d7, castle, bishop to g7, rook to e1, castle, and knight to c3. Play with this type of setup. a6, you go back bishop to f1, or you can go back bishop to d3. I recommend bishop to f1 because you can always fianchetto, and you never have to worry about any kingside attacks because even black's castle kingside. So this is also a very easy setup, and the reason I actually also recommend this opening is because it doesn't have a lot of theory. As I said, it's a very unorthodox opening, and it's really good if your opponent's prepared for something else. Highly recommend this opening, and if you guys have any questions regarding this opening, you can hit me up in the comment section, and please do hit the like button, subscribe, and once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.